Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to my podcast. Betting companies top the list of businesses treating MPs to gifts and hospitality. Well, the government seems to be constantly gambling with our economy and well-being, so why shouldn't the bookies get in on some of the action? This might explain why we see gambling advertisements every 2 seconds on television nowadays. Labour wants to scrap betting adverts on football kits. If you are at a game or watching on TV, chances are you've already had a bet, so that seems a bit late to me. Why not just ban them for being on TV every 2 seconds instead? Panic over the government's EU post-Brexit workers' plans, as with less European workers being allowed in, who is going to serve me my pint? When it comes to local government, Devon County Councillor Percy Prowse prefers doing things the old-fashioned way. He only has a landline with no answer phone, no emails, no social media, no internet. Instead, he hand-types a regular newsletter on his vintage typewriter and goes to meet community members on his bicycle. And you know what? I bet he actually gets more done and more things completed than most of that lot working out of Westminster. And he is still more forward-thinking than Jacob Rees-Mogg. North Korea claimed to have carried out another nuclear weapons test, their largest to date, but then they published a picture of Kim Jong-un inspecting what appears to be an old English milk urn which looks like a science school class have attached some electrics to it as a project. I honestly think the Doctor Who Daleks look more believable. That said, if you're listening to this and everybody else in the world is dead, sorry, I was very wrong. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have announced they're expecting their third child, so Uncle Harry has to once again pretend he's very happy for them despite it taking him yet still further and further away from being king. She has been suffering from bad morning sickness during the early stages of her pregnancy. I went through that for a spell, but then I just cut down on my drinking. Toymaker Lego is cutting 1,400 jobs worldwide as they take a look at the structure of the company. Many staff are said to be bricking it. Some special edition Star Wars stamps are being released next month, as nothing says science fiction like sending letters. African wild dogs vote over pack decisions by sneezing. I think as a society we should adopt this. It would certainly make general elections a lot quicker. There is apparently more anxiety over health nowadays due to what they're calling cyberchondria, which is the practice of looking up your symptoms on the internet and then discovering with 2 clicks you're going to die. All online diagnoses always arrive at cancer. With the way it is developing and being used across the world, the sequel to the film about the founder of Facebook is going to have to be called The Anti-Social Network. An urgent plea to raise £1 million in weeks to protect Dover's White Cliffs has been backed by Dame Vera Lynn amid fears that it could be sold to developers. I mean, some nice designer flats might look good there. If only Dame Vera had a suitable song she could release to help try and get some money in. Oxford and Cambridge remain the top 2 universities in the world. Well, I guess both places are good to take a punt. Scientists have developed a camera that can see right through the human body, I guess for the very niche perverts. Jose Mourinho came on as a substitute in goal in the charity football game for Grenfell at Queen's Park Rangers. While between the sticks, he mostly just stood around shouting at his players and arguing with the match officials. So exactly what he does when he's managing in the Premier League. John Motson is going to retire from football commentary at the end of the season, putting the country's only sheepskin coat company out of business. I mean, who else wears them? The big fashion houses have all said they will stop using underweight models for their catwalk shows. But what are the thin and beautiful people going to do now? I mean, for many, it was their only career option. The UK's obesity crisis is being fuelled by businesses pushing unhealthy food and larger portions on shoppers. That's according to health experts. I'm not convinced. I'm sure crisps and chocolates have shrunk since I was a kid, and wagon wheels are at least half the size they were. I mean, they'd be barely big enough for a scooter nowadays. So after exhuming the body of the artist Dali for DNA, experts have found that the woman who claimed to be his daughter isn't at all. Surely when you've been dead for 28 years, the window for paternity tests should really have closed. The X Factor returned last Saturday with very low ratings. I mean, maybe they should have mentioned it was on more. I didn't know anything about it. I'm not saying people are losing interest, but can anyone actually name last year's winner? This series could be their Police Academy 6, just one too many. The yellow pages will no longer be printed from next year. I will be honest, I was surprised they still were. With the invention of Google and the fact we all have mobile phones, who was actually searching for a book they probably didn't even know where it was to find a number? I mean, as long as Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley is released in an ebook, nobody will miss it. That's it for this week. Thanks very much for listening. Have a great 7 days. Speak to you next week.